Hello, everybody. My name is Juan Carlos Brando, and thank you for joining us today in this show with the attorney Francis Fonsan, one of the main attorneys in the law firm of Margaret W. Wong in the city of Cleveland and other 8 cities across the United States of America. Thank you for joining us today, and feel free to send your immigration questions if you have any questions or concerns about immigration. Today is a good day to ask your questions. Welcome, Attorney Francis. It's good to have you back here in the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much. And well, we are currently experiencing a little part of the storm of Ian hurricane, but it's going down to a tropical storm. So we should be fine. However, we need to be careful about what is going on in the world, what is going on in the immigration world as well. And I would like to start by asking, what is the main concern going on now regarding to the policies that the government is applying either in the country or but for other consulates or embassies. For example, right now we're talking about the situation with Cuba, that some activities are being opened in there, and also the option of tourist visas is open in Cuba right now.
Well, if you're talking about Cuba specifically, the current administration actually reopened the Cuban family reunification parole program. So if Cuban individuals in the United States have family in Cuba, they can apply for permission for their relatives in Cuba to come to the United States on parole travel document. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, regards to U.S. consulates in general, the pandemic really affected U.S. consulates worldwide. It slowed everything down. A lot of interviews and cases were put on hold. And so now they're slowly trying to get back up to speed. It's still taking a long time to get interviews in certain countries. For example, Mexico or India, there's multiple years people have to wait for their interviews, even though the case has been transferred there already. But we're seeing that interviews are being scheduled and people are getting their cases heard. So sometimes it just takes time.
Okay, thank you so much. And we have a question. It's an audio, it's an voice note or voice message. And it says that this person filed for Venezuelan TPS over a year ago. It was around May last year. And this person has not received any answer from this application for the TPS. So this person is concerned about what could be happening in this case, because many other cases that were filed after her case have been approved, and she has still only received the receipt notice and no further notifications or nothing. What could be going on with this case?
Okay, so first of all, she should have already, if she filed more than 1 year ago, then she should have already been scheduled for a fingerprint appointment. That means received a biometrics appointment notice in the mail. If she has not received it, then she should double check with immigration to make sure they didn't schedule an appointment and then she missed it. Okay, so that's very important. If she filed TPS online on the USCIS website, then there are no mailed notices. She has to make sure she checks her online account for any updates. If she filed by mail, then those mailed notices would come to her home address. If she moves to a new address, you have to update the immigration service with the updated address. Otherwise, they're mailing to the incorrect address. Okay, so number one, check to make sure you've already done the biometrics. If you have done the biometrics, then it's possible the immigration service is just taking a long time to process your case. We also have other cases that are still pending that were filed last year, and our clients are wondering what's going on. The good thing is, if your case is still pending, the re-registration for Venezuela, that period has already ended. You don't have to, that means that the Immigration Service will process your application up to the re-registered date, the extended date. You don't have to file new paperwork, okay? And so if the processing times, you can check the online processing times on the immigration website. If we're beyond the processing times, then you can submit an inquiry to ask immigration what's going on with my case, because it's beyond what's considered normal for your TPS application.
Yes, and I actually have a screenshot here that says September 29, 2021, I-81 application for temporary protected status. There's the receipt notice, and it was submitted May 7, 2021. Case is being actively reviewed by USCIS. As of September 29, 2021, we're actively reviewing your form, application temporary protected status. Our records show nothing is outstanding at this time.
Okay. Then maybe try to do an inquiry on the USCIS website.
Okay. Thank you so much, Attorney Francis. And if you have any questions about the immigration system or the immigration law, just send your questions today. We are transmitting on Facebook and on YouTube, and you can just write down your question. The answer is absolutely free. It's a service from the office of the attorney Margaret W. Wong. The phone number is 216-279-3984, 216-279-3984. Hi, sir. I really appreciate you are here to help instead of taking, well, just a message. But okay, that's what people appreciate, Attorney Francis, that we have this space to answer immigration questions to the audience. So they have a lot of questions coming in. I would like to get a work permit. How can I do that? I am from Mexico.
Well, unfortunately, it's not as easy as I want to get a work permit. I'm going to submit my application for a work permit. Usually to get a work permit, you have to meet specific criteria. And usually that means you have an application pending with immigration, and then you can apply for a work permit while that application is pending, while you're waiting for a final result. For example, if you apply for a green card, you can apply for a work permit while you're waiting for that green card to be processed. Or if you're applying for asylum, then after 150 days, if you don't have a result, you can apply for a work permit while you're waiting for the asylum. If you're in removal proceedings and you have an application pending with the judge, then you can apply for a work permit while you're waiting. Or if you, for example, apply for a U visa, for example, usually you would have had to wait 4, 5, 6 years when they actually look at the application before you can get the work permit. But now you can get it shortly after your file if the Immigration Service figures that it is a bona fide application, that it is a legitimate application. So it's not as easy as just submitting the application for a work permit. You should either talk to an attorney to see if you're eligible so that we can get more information.
Thank you so much, Attorney Francis, for this answer. And we have several questions coming in on our inbox. One of them is, I am a professional in international commerce. I am from Colombia and I currently live in Colombia. As you can notice, I speak English, but I would like to improve my English. My question is, how could I get a work visa in the United States? I don't have a specialization, but I have my career and I graduated 10 years ago.
Okay, so I see two options for you. If you're specifically looking for a work visa, then you'll need to find a U.S. employer that's willing to sponsor you. Okay. You don't usually sponsor yourself for a work visa. The most common type of work visa would be the H-1B, which is for any job that requires at least a bachelor's degree in a specific field. So if you have a bachelor's degree, that means a 4-year degree, and you find a US employer willing to offer you a job, and that job is a high enough level that it requires at least a bachelor's degree, then you can try the H-1B. Unfortunately, there's a limited number of new H-1Bs that can be approved each year. So there's a lottery process for those H-1B numbers. The lottery is held every March. And so the next lottery is going to be March of 2023. If you do find a US employer who is willing to offer a job, then look into the lottery process in January, February, so that you're ready to go in March. Okay. If you are selected in the lottery, you'll be notified at the beginning of April, and then you have some time to file the H-1B petition to the Immigration Service. If you are approved, then you can enter the United States October 1st, just begin work in the United States. So that's option number one. Option number two, you want to improve your English. Maybe you don't have an employer who's willing to offer you a job. You can try to apply for a student visa. That's the F1 visa. Now, if you already have a degree, you've already been working, your English is okay, it's going to be pretty tough for you to get a student visa, because those are usually for individuals trying to get like a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. If you're already a professional, you'll have to convince the visa officer at the embassy that you have a legitimate case to want to study in the United States, and that when you're done with your studies, you're going to return back to Colombia and use whatever you've learned from your studies, okay? And so to start that process, you would apply to schools in the United States, universities. You can see if there's some sort of specialized English program for business professionals, okay? Just an ESL program, English as a second language, that's probably not good enough because your English is already fine. So you want a specialized English program. If you are accepted to that school, they will issue a form to you called a Form I-20. You would bring that form and some other paperwork to schedule an interview at the US Embassy to try to apply for your student visa. You'll have to show that you can afford to pay the tuition and expenses in the United States, and you'll have to show that you're maintaining ties to Colombia while you're studying there, so you show you have a home to return to, for example, a job or your own business, okay? And so that's something that you can try, those two options. The student visa you can try right now, the H-1B, lottery is next March.
Okay, thank you so much, Attorney Francis, for this answer. And we're getting a lot of questions right now. So thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget that you can call the phone number 216-279-3984, 216-279-3984. And this is the best option that you can do when you are looking for an attorney. The attorney Margaret W. Wong has built this law firm 45 years ago, and now 14 attorneys are working with her. That includes the attorney Francis Fung, who has a lot of awards as an individual attorney in immigration, working for several years and being awarded in the 40 under 40 for a couple years in a row. So that talks about how good the attorneys are in the law firm. So thank you for joining us. Don't forget to call 216-279-3984, 216-279-3984. So now we have the question, Attorney Francis, from this person. Sir, in Washington, D.C., CBP mixed up some of my documents and denied my entry. I was in B1, B2. I told Traveler Redress Inquiry Program, they assigned me 7-digit number. What does that mean? And I got an email from CBP. They asked me to go to the embassy in my country in Pakistan and tell them about documents. I want to ask if I would be granted visa again. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so if you try to enter under B1, B2 visitor visa and you are denied entry, Either they can cancel your visa, that means they stamp canceled, it's not good anymore, or they just let you leave on your own. You can try in the future at some point. If they cancel your visa, that means you have to apply for a new B1 to B2 visa to replace the old one. Now, you did the CBP traveler redress. That means if there was some mistake that was made or some issue that you had, you can file an inquiry with US Customs to explain they made a mistake. I want to try to fix it in the system so it doesn't happen again when I try to visit in the future. Okay. Now, if they told you to go to the US Embassy in Pakistan and tell them about your documents, that's a good sign. That means they're telling you to reapply for your visa and see, because now it's in the hands of the US Embassy in Pakistan. The US Customs, they don't approve visas. Once the visa is canceled, they can't just uncancel it. So you have to apply for a new visa at the embassy. If the embassy asks you what happened, you can explain what happened. You're going to show that you tried the redress. This is what they told me to do, and show that you have a temporary reason for visiting the United States and that whatever happened was a mistake.
Thank you so much, Attorney Francis. They canceled her visa.
Mhm. Okay, so that means you definitely have to apply for a new one. And you want to be prepared when you apply for the new one to explain what happened when they canceled your visa. And you have a temporary reason for visiting the United States. You've got ties back to your home country in Pakistan. You've got a home there or a job there or a family there. And a good reason, a temporary reason to visit.
Thank you so much for this answer. Don't forget that the law firm of Margaret W. Wong has offices in 9 cities of the United States: in Atlanta, Chicago, Cleveland, Columbus, Memphis, Minneapolis, Nashville, New York, and Raleigh, North Carolina. And the phone number is 216-279-3984, 216-279-3984. Attorney Margaret W. Wong and the whole team. Attorney Francis Fonsang is an amazing attorney in the law firm. And thank you, Attorney Francis, for joining us today and spending some time with all the audience. Thank you so much. The next question we have is, I was deported to Nigeria and came back through the Mexican border. Now I was a victim of a crime in the United States. Can I file U visa even if I was deported?
The answer is yes. U visas are one of those types of visas where the Immigration Service wants to protect those individuals who are victims of crime and who are willing to assist police in their investigation. Okay? Even if you were deported and came back in illegally through the border, that means you have what's called a permanent bar. Ordinarily, if you want to apply for a green card, you would have to leave the United States, wait 10 years before you can try to come back. But when you apply for the U visa, you can apply for a waiver of that deportation and perm bar. That waiver application is the form I-192. You would file that at the same time as your I-918. Okay? If you've already applied for the U visa, you have not filed the waiver, eventually the Immigration Service will send a request for evidence, an RFE, asking for that I-192 waiver. When you submit the I-192 waiver, you have to pay the government fee, you have to submit the form, and you have to submit any documents to show why you should be allowed to stay in the United States. Are you working here? Do you have family in the United States? Do you have any medical issues? Do your family members have medical issues? Are you a person of good moral character? Okay. Any documents to show why, for humanitarian reasons, why you should be able to remain in the United States.
Okay, thank you so much, Attorney Francis. Don't forget the phone number is 216-279-3984, 216-279-3984. Hi, how much money do I need to have in my account to file a student visa?
Okay. When you want to apply for a student visa, you have to show that you can pay the tuition and that you can afford to support yourself, room and board expenses while you're in the United States. On your student, when you apply to the school and they accept you, they give you a Form I-20, which you would use to apply for your student visa. On that Form I-20, on the right side, there's a financial section that shows how much the tuition is, how much of the room and board and expenses. You should be able to show that you can afford to pay at least the first year of expenses. So that number will be on that right side of the Form I-20. So if either you show your own bank account, or you show your parents' bank account, or a sponsor's bank account to show that you or they can afford that tuition.
Thank you so much, Attorney Francis, for this answer. And don't forget that you can call. The phone number is 216-279-3984. 216-279-3984 is the phone number that you can call, and you can also find information on our YouTube channel or the website imwong.com. imwong.com is the website that you can visit. You can see it below this video that we are transmitting today. Attorney Francis, the next question is, I came to the United States on a B1, B2 visa, changed my status to a student visa, and now I have an OPT work permit. I got my Venezuelan TPS approved. How can I change my work permit? I assume it's to the TPS one.
Okay, we get this question a lot. Now, when you are here on a student status, you can, after you graduate, you can apply for OPT, optional practical training. You get a work permit, either 1 year, extend up to 3 years of OPT. Now, you have to work in a field that's related to your major, your field of study. So if you work for another type of job that's not related to your field of study, then your OPT could be canceled, okay? Now, when you apply for TPS, that's a completely separate status. You can maintain both the student status and the TPS status at the same time, okay? Because the TPS, it just stays in the background. If you apply for a work permit with your TPS and you use that work permit and that job is not related to your major, then that could cancel your F1 student status and you're completely relying on the TPS, okay? If that's your goal, when you apply for TPS, you could have included the Form I-765 to request a work permit when your TPS was approved. If you did not file the Form I-765, then you have to apply for the I-765 now based on the TPS approval and get the TPS work permit, which you can use.
Thank you so much, Attorney Francis. And yeah, this person added,
Okay.
I've had this for 2 years. Is there a way that they could get a green card through this OPT program, or there is no way to do it?
Well, I mean, OPT is your student status, your F1 status. You don't automatically get a green card. You would have to be sponsored somehow, either by the employer, who can go through the green card process for you, a family member, if you have a U.S. citizen or green card holder family member, through your self-sponsorship, if you are a person of extraordinary ability, or through investment. And on the other hand, TPS, that also doesn't have a pathway to the green card. Just because you have TPS doesn't mean you automatically get the green card. You would have to have some sort of sponsorship as well, okay?
Thank you so much, Attorney Francis. And don't forget that if you need more information, you can call the phone number 216-279-3984, 216-279-3984. I have an asylum application pending. Got married to a person that has been deported 2 times. When I filed, we were not married. Could he benefit from my asylum if it's granted?
Okay, so if you two married before your asylum is approved, then he could benefit if your asylum is granted. After your asylum is approved, you would file a Form I-730 for your spouse within 2 years. There's a 2-year deadline after your asylum is granted to file for spouses and children, okay? If that I-730 is approved, then your spouse would also have asylum granted, okay? The I-730 will be filed after your asylum is approved.
Thank you so much, Attorney Francis. And don't forget, the phone number is 216-279-3984, 216-279-3984. This is an interesting question, the next one here. My partner was murdered last year. We were not married, but we were in the same house, but they came for him and they killed him. My question is, could I file U visa because I was there in the place where he was, and we were not married, but we used to live together?
Okay, so this has come up before. This is called the indirect victim, where you are not the direct victim of the crime because the perpetrator was going after your partner, but you were there, you suffered harm, whether it's emotional distress, psychological distress, and if you're willing to accept to assist the police in their investigation, then uh, maybe the police would be willing to sign the I-918 Supplement B on your behalf. Now, the question is whether you are a victim of a qualifying crime, okay? And so if the crime is murder, and the question is, are you a victim of murder or attempted murder? Because you are not the target. We have gotten this case approved, especially if you are a child. That means under the age of 21, but better under the age of 18, you can be an indirect victim, okay? Or if the primary victim doesn't have, is incapacitated, maybe is handicapped, has special needs, has psychological issues, then guardians could be indirect victims, okay? Here, if you are not legally married, there's no legal relationship, it's gonna be tough to get approved. You can try it, but I think it would be very tough to win if you were, let's say, like in the, like a, not a specific target, but you were in the line of fire. You could have been harmed. You were there as a bystander. You could have been harmed. Then I think you have a better situation. And you'll have to see if the police department would be willing to sign that Supplement B form on your behalf, because without that, you wouldn't be able to apply for the U visa.
Okay, thank you so much, Attorney Francis. This next question comes in Spanish. It's a very simple one. It says, how long does a process take to get a green card?
Well, I mean, that's a very general question. And the easy answer is it depends. What is the green card process that you're looking to go through? Are you married to a US citizen? Is a brother or sister filing for you? Is a adult child who's a US citizen filing for you? Is an employer filing for you? Are you going through investment? And the second is, what country are you from? Certain countries, there's a long wait in line because there's a quota system for green cards. For most categories, there's a limited number of green cards that can be approved each year for each category for each country. So if you are from China or India or Mexico or the Philippines, it might take many, many more years for you to wait than for somebody from another country, okay? So the green card process could be as short as 6 months, or it could be as long as 20 years, depending on what category you're in and what country you are from.
Thank you so much, Attorney Francis. And well, we have a couple more questions. Um, One of them is, well, the person that already had a couple questions. Sir, do I have to book consultation before going to the embassy, or just make an appointment on the base of redress number? What would be better?
Well, you are not, so you don't need a consultation. There isn't much that an attorney can do to help with the US Embassy process because a visitor visa, people apply for visitor visas every day. There isn't much an attorney can do to help you. We can't go to the embassy with you. We can't submit the application or paperwork for you, okay? So, and the redress number, So your embassy appointment is not based on the redress number. Your embassy appointment is the B1, B2 visa application. So you submit the DS-160 online application, you pay the fee online, you schedule the appointment online, and then you bring whatever documentation you have to the interview. It could be as short as 1 or 2 minutes. That's why you have to be ready to talk, to explain, answer any questions that the officer have, because a lot of times these interviews are very short and they deny right away. So you have to be ready to explain your case.
Okay, thank you so much, Attorney Francis, for all of your answers and your time today. Our time is up, so I'll see you probably next week. We don't know when, but we really enjoy when we have you in the show and answering all of these immigration questions. So thank you so much one more time, and have a good afternoon.
All right, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And for everybody who has joined us today, don't forget to call the phone number 216-279-3984, 216-279-3984, the office of the attorney Margaret W. Wong, with over 45 years of experience and 14 attorneys working just for you. Thank you so much. My name is Juan Carlos Brando, and it was a pleasure to host this show for today. See you next time.